Mr. Bongino, you sit there as the FBI Deputy Director, but your record shows you have weaponized law enforcement against immigrants and Muslims. Ilhan Omar's voice rang through the congressional hearing room, sharp and accusatory, utilizing that familiar pitch she employs when cameras are rolling. She stood at her microphone, her designer hijab perfectly positioned, her expression righteously indignant as she seized her moment. This was the hearing she had personally requested, the platform she intended to use to destroy Dan Bongino on national television tonight. She continued warming to her theme, declaring that she was going to expose his bias, his corruption, and his racist agenda for everyone to see. The progressive section of the gallery erupted in applause, as they had come early and packed the room ready to watch their squad champion take down Trump's FBI appointee. C-SPAN cameras captured every moment, with CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News all present for the hearing everyone had been anticipating. The Congressional Oversight Committee on Immigration System Integrity was the official title, but everyone knew what this really was, which was a show trial of Ilhan Omar versus Dan Bongino. The squad's rising star was pitted against Trump's controversial FBI deputy director, and she had spent weeks preparing for this confrontation. Her staff had compiled opposition research, rehearsed her attacks, and coordinated with friendly media to ensure she was ready. Dan Bongino sat at the witness table, a 50-year-old former NYPD cop and former Secret Service agent who was a Queens guy through and through. He wore a dark suit with a white shirt and red tie, a classic federal look. But his face showed something Omar had not expected. He was not nervous, nor was he defensive. In fact, he was almost smiling with that slight upturn at the corner of his mouth. It was the look a cop gets when a suspect is about to say something really stupid that the American people deserve to know. Omar pressed on, claiming that he had used his position to target vulnerable communities, harass refugees, and implement Trump's racist immigration policies. You claim to care about law and order, but your real agenda is discrimination against people who look like me, she said amidst more applause and camera flashes. She thought she was nailing it, but Bongino leaned into his microphone, and when he spoke, that Queen's accent came through clear. He projected working-class New York street cop energy, not the polished D.C. speak everyone expected, as he addressed the Congresswoman with a voice that was calm but carried authority. Before we talk about my record, let's talk about your record regarding immigration fraud, marriage fraud, perjury, tax fraud, and campaign finance violations. He paused to let it sink in, stating that because he had been a cop for 20 years, including time with the NYPD and Secret Service, he knew fraud when he saw it. Another pause followed, and the room had gone quiet, while Omar's smile had frozen on her face. And you, Congresswoman, are committing multiple federal crimes, and we are going to talk about every single one of them right here and right now on national television. He pulled out a thick folder organized with tabs and documents visible, stating that if she wanted to talk about immigration system integrity, that was perfect. Let's start with how you defrauded the immigration system by marrying your brother, causing the room to explode with noise. Omar's face went from righteous confidence to frozen shock in half a second. While her staffers were frantically looking at each other, and her attorneys leaned forward. This wasn't the script, and this wasn't how this was supposed to go, as Bongino repeated his point about immigration system integrity. Good. Let's talk about your marriage to Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi, a British citizen who, according to substantial evidence, is your biological brother. He opened the folder and pulled out the first set of documents, saying he had worked fraud cases involving financial crimes and identity theft and marriage fraud. I have seen it all, and this is textbook. So let me walk you through how I know you married your brother to commit immigration fraud. Omar tried to interrupt, saying these were disgusting racist conspiracy theories, but Bongino's voice was firm and matter-of-fact as he stated that evidence isn't racist. Facts aren't racist, so let's look at the facts, he said as he held up the first document showing she legally married Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi in 2009. That is not in dispute, because you admitted it on the marriage certificate filed with Hennepin County in Minnesota when you were about 26 years old. Now, here is where it gets interesting regarding who Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi is, as I pulled his educational records from the United Kingdom. He attended high school there before coming to the United States, and Bongino held up official documents with British government seals showing his father's name listed as Noor Saeed Elmi. Now let's look at your refugee application documents from 1995 when your family came to America, and he held up another document to put them side by side. Your father's name is Noor Saeed Elmi, which is the exact same name with the same spelling. And he looked at the committee and the cameras. Now I am just a cop from Queens without fancy degrees in mathematics. But where I come from, when two people list the same man as their father, that makes them siblings. Someone in the gallery gasped and camera shutters clicked rapidly. But Bongino continued saying that was just one piece of evidence as he built the case. Let me give you more regarding social media and Instagram specifically, as he pulled out printouts and held them up, showing Ahmed Elmi's account. These are archived posts from before you deleted everything and tried to scrub the internet. But you know what they say about the internet being forever. He started reading a post from 2013 where Ahmed Elmi posts a photo with your daughter from your previous relationship with Ahmed Hirsi. In the caption, he calls her his niece, not his stepdaughter, which is an interesting word choice because that is what she would be if he was your brother. Omar was shaking her head, but she wasn't speaking, while her lawyers were whispering urgently. But Bongino said there was more. Let me tell you about an email retrieved through a Freedom of Information Act request from Ahmed Elmi to you in 2011, and he asked if she wanted to know what it said. He pulled out the email and read it slowly, quoting, "Thanks for helping me get papers, sister, and I will make sure to pay you back when I get to London." There was dead silence as Bongino repeated the word sister, emphasizing that he called her sister in an email about helping him get immigration papers. You married your brother to help him get U.S. citizenship, or at minimum student visa status, along with in-state tuition benefits and an easier path to permanent residence. I also have 6 sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury from members of the Minneapolis Somali community who knew your family before you fled. They all say Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi is your brother, identifying him independently under oath as your sibling, including Mrs. Fadumo Hassan, who is very specific. Now let's talk about the timeline, because this is where the fraud becomes crystal clear, starting in 2002 when you have a religious Islamic marriage ceremony with Ahmed Hirsi. You have 2 children with him in 2006 and 2008, then you separate from Hirsi with a religious divorce in 2008, since you were never legally married. In 2009, immediately, you legally marry Ahmed Elmi, the man with the same father as you. But here is the really interesting part regarding your living situation. From 2009 to 2011, you and Ahmed Hirsi and Ahmed Elmi all lived at the same address in a Columbia Heights apartment building in the same unit. You were living with your children's father and your legal husband, who just happens to be your brother, at the same time under the same roof. In 2009, immediately after marrying you, Ahmed Elmi enrolled at North Dakota State University. And you know what marriage to a U.S. citizen gets you regarding tuition. It gets you in-state tuition, which is significantly cheaper than international rates, and also makes you eligible for U.S. student aid programs and gives you legal status. He graduated in 2012, then moved to Minneapolis before getting evicted from public housing and going back to the UK where he is right now. He pulled out one final document, which was the smoking gun, her divorce filing from 2017, which she signed under penalty of perjury. In that filing, you claimed that you have had no contact with Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi since June 2011, and he set that document down. He pulled out photos from London in 2015 showing you and Ahmed Elmi together 4 years after you claimed you had no contact. That is perjury, Congresswoman, because you lied under oath in a court document, which is a felony separate from the marriage fraud and the immigration fraud. Omar found her voice shaky and defensive, claiming this was all taken out of context, and these were debunked conspiracy theories from racist bloggers. Bongino's voice went sharp as he stated that nothing he just presented has been debunked, including UK government documents and her refugee application showing the same father's name. You know what would debunk all of this is one simple thing: a DNA test, which would prove if Ahmed Elmi is not your brother. If you swab your cheek and swab his cheek, the lab results come back in 1 hour, and if you are not related, the story is over. The Daily Mail requested you take a DNA test in 2019 and you refused, and members of Congress requested it and you refused again. I will tell you why you refused, because you know what that test would show, and you know it would prove beyond any doubt that you committed federal immigration fraud. Omar was shaking her head with tears forming, saying she would not dignify these racist attacks, but Bongino's voice went cold with a street cop edge. This isn't about your race or religion. This is about federal crimes, including immigration fraud, which carries up to 5 years in prison. He closed that section of his folder saying, "We haven't even talked about your taxes yet," while Omar sat frozen and the gallery went silent. Bongino pulled out a new section from his folder to talk about tax returns, noting that in financial fraud cases, you always follow the money. In 2014 and 2015, you filed joint federal tax returns with Ahmed Hirsi, the father of your children, while legally married to Ahmed Elmi. You did not legally divorce Elmi until 2017, so in 2014 and 2015, you filed joint tax returns with a man you were not legally married to. That is tax fraud under Title 26 of the United States Code, specifically making false statements on tax returns under penalties of perjury. Omar tried to respond that she corrected those filings, but Bongino finished for her, saying she corrected them only after she got caught and investigated. Correcting fraud after you are caught doesn't make it not fraud, it just makes it admitted fraud because you signed those returns claiming they were true. Let's talk about your campaign finances and Tim Minett, and how you used campaign funds to pay for your affair with your political consultant. Bongino pulled out a thick stack of Federal Election Commission filings and financial records, noting that Tim Minett ran a firm called E Street Group. Your campaign paid E Street Group approximately $370,000 through 2019 for consulting services, digital consulting, and travel expenses. Campaigns hire consultants, which is normal, but having an affair with your consultant while paying him massive amounts of campaign money is not normal. Omar tried to interrupt regarding her personal relationships, but Bongino said, "Stop right there, because this is public business when donor money is involved." He pulled out a court document from Beth Minett, Tim's wife, who filed for divorce in April 2019, stating her husband admitted to the affair. She testified that Tim told her not to worry about money because Ilhan's campaign was covering everything, a statement that hung in the air like a bomb. Bongino repeated that statement slowly, pointing out that campaign funds and donor money were being used to fund an affair and destroy a marriage. He showed credit card records for dinners and hotels and flights charged to the campaign, all while both of them were married to other people. You destroyed her marriage and broke up a family and used campaign funds to do it, causing Omar to shake her head and call this unfair. Bongino slammed the documents down, saying what is unfair is working people donating money they think is fighting for them while you use it for an affair. In March 2020, you married Tim Minett, and the payments to his firm increased to over $1 million that year alone. You are now paying your husband's consulting firm massive amounts of campaign money, which is a textbook conflict of interest and potentially illegal coordination. You are paying your husband over $1 million a year, which looks like you are using campaign money to support your household and personal enrichment. I have seen corruption in my 20 years, but this is cruder than most of it, as you had an affair and used campaign money to fund it. He closed that section of his folder and pulled out the next one to discuss what she did to the refugee system that saved her life. You came to this country as a refugee in 1995, fleeing the civil war in Somalia, and America accepted you and gave you citizenship and opportunities. You became a congresswoman, which is the American dream. But you didn't just benefit from the system. You exploited it and defrauded it. By marrying your brother to help him circumvent the system, you make every legitimate refugee suspect and prove the skeptics right about immigration fraud. Bongino stood up and walked a few steps, speaking with passion about how his grandparents were immigrants who followed every rule and never asked for handouts. He turned back to Omar, saying this isn't about her being Muslim or black or a woman, but about federal crimes and betraying the system. I want to ask you some very simple questions, and I want you to answer them yes or no, he said as he settled back into interrogation mode. Innocent people answer questions to clear their names, while guilty people deflect and attack the questioner and hide behind technicalities. Question 1 is Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi. Your brother, yes or no? He asked, as Omar looked at her lawyers and refused to dignify the question. Bongino noted her refusal to answer and moved to question 2, asking if she filed joint tax returns with Ahmed Hirsi while legally married to Elmi. Omar said she corrected the filings, which Bongino took as a yes, since the filings were indeed amended because they were originally fraudulent. Question 3 asked if she stated under penalty of perjury in her divorce filing that she had no contact with Elmi since June 2011. She admitted yes, and Bongino wrote it down before asking question 4 about whether she was photographed with Elmi in London in 2015. She refused to answer, so he moved to question 5 regarding the $370,000 paid to Tim Minett's company. She confirmed the payments were disclosed, and he moved to question 6, asking if she was having an affair with Tim Minett during that time. She refused to discuss her personal life, so he noted it as confirmed by third-party testimony from Minett's ex-wife under oath. Question 7 asked if payments increased after she married Minett, which he answered himself by checking the public FEC filings that showed a substantial increase. 7 questions and 7 deflections, he said, standing up, declaring that this is what guilt looks like when criminals are cornered with evidence. You won't take a DNA test because you can't, because it would prove you married your brother, and that would end your career and freedom. Omar was sobbing now as Bongino explained why she hadn't been charged yet, citing political protection and the statute of limitations on some older crimes. Prosecutors are scared of the media backlash and being accused of targeting you because of your identity, so they do nothing and let it slide. However, Tom Homan and the new FBI leadership are reviewing everything, including options for denaturalization if citizenship was obtained through fraud. Realistically, you might get away with it for now due to politics, but everyone knows what you did, and history will record it. The American people know you are corrupt and a criminal, And one day, all anyone will remember is that you committed federal crimes. The hearing room erupted as Bongino finished, and Omar was rushed out by her lawyers away from cameras, while clips of the exchange went viral immediately. The hashtag Ilhan Omar Exposed trended worldwide, and even progressive media outlets struggled to defend her against the sheer volume of evidence presented. A petition started by a Somali refugee named Ahmed Hassan, demanding an investigation, gained 500,000 signatures in 2 weeks. Sarah Mitchell, a friend of Beth Minette, started another petition regarding campaign finance violations, while formal complaints were filed with the FBI and DOJ. Even Democrats who had defended Omar went quiet, as the situation became too politically toxic and her fundraising collapsed completely. 6 months later, Omar held a press conference looking exhausted and announced she had decided not to seek re-election to spend time with her family. Everyone knew the truth was that she had been destroyed and forced out, though Ahmed Hassan stated that resigning was not enough and she should face charges. The investigation continues today with files being reviewed, but regardless of charges, the facts are public and the truth is known. Dan Bongino used his platform to expose corruption with evidence, showing that when Ilhan Omar tried to destroy him, she destroyed herself instead. If this story opened your eyes, share it to let people know the truth, because the corrupt need to be called out.